almost, well, let's watch this one more time. When it starts coming around and starts turning, its head almost does look sort of red. Right there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's a vulture, and I would have thought that a turkey vulture is a little longer, but let me just look at the size here. A vulture, vulture 268. The size, they're both about 25 to 27 inches in length, so they're about the same in length. The turkey vulture also shows more of a elongated tail like that. The black vultures, in seeing a black vulture, typically one would say, look at, there's almost no tail on that bird. Well, that would be a black vulture. So my guess is this is probably a turkey vulture. And it doesn't really matter, does it, buddy?
Nope. And here's the cool part about it. Vultures, people are going, ugh, gross, but we should be thankful we have turkey vultures, because they're the garbage collectors of the roadside.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% correct. Correct. Their abilities to smell is, I don't even know how experts can actually say it's like 1,000 times better than the human nose.
Yeah,
something
it's
crazy.
Yeah, it's one of the few birds that have a very, very, very keen sense of smell.
And for them, that means survival, because they have to look usually for carrion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's funny, we're
they
talking
also
about this particular bird. I watched it for about 5 minutes before Scott and I were talking, and I kept thinking, man, it looks like it's a vulture to me, mainly because of as it glides, it gives that upper V look like this. Okay, but
Yeah.
usually they rock more like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an autumnal picture, though. That's pretty cool.
There's only, if it's in the United States, there's only 3 vultures: turkey, black, and the California condor. So there's no way that's a California condor.
No, also because the California condor is like 9 feet wingspan. It's
and that just doesn't. It's
Yeah,
just not the right size and coloration. So it's either got to be a black. If it's in the United States, it's got to be a black or a turkey, one or the other.
That's right.
Now they'll also, I've seen them eat manure before.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When people get desperate, they start eating that,
Hey, if you're hungry, you're hungry. And if there's nothing around and you're here, you go to the buffet.
Yeah.
Some of the nasty boys when I was in grade school would say, "Oh, go eat shit, man."
We'd always try and get people to eat smart pills, otherwise known as rabbit pellets. And you get some kids to eat one every once in a while.
Yeah, jeez.
Yuck.
It's just grass.
Yeah, reconstituted and dragged through the body of another animal.
Dude, there's that kangaroo coffee you can get that's been through, animals, and there's coffee they feed to like elephants and dig out of the
civet. It's from the civet. It's a little animal.
Yeah, so
hey, look
My name
at
is
that.
Jared Santor. I'm 24 years old, and I study birds. I know that they're up to something. I know that they've been doing it for thousands of years. Since 1997, I've been banding birds out here. It's kind of hard to get used to at first, but we're up at 4 o'clock, usually in the morning, and coming out to set up the nets before dawn, before the sun comes up, before the birds start getting active. Being quiet, listening to the birds that are giving calls around you, watching the sun come up. birds fly into the nets, I take them out and I measure them. Just like I'd measure a carrot or something. I measure the birds. I get an idea for how big it is, what color it is, what time of the year it is. Trying to get a bird to go into the net, I may use some sort of pish call. Like shh, 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 shh. And there's all types of hand kissing that you can do. You can do all these squeak sounds that may bring them in, or you can do, sometimes you do a screech owl call.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance. And you have arrived on the wing with Dan, George, and Kent Marts. And today we have a special program. We're going to be highlighting the work of photographer, bird photographer, and astrophotographer Sheldon Faworski. I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, so we'll get started in a second. Dan and I were talking a little bit earlier today about, birding, is like go binoculars and go out and look at birds and listen to birds. But, it is a challenging hobby. It takes planning and forethought and skills to execute this hobby. Dan, what were your thoughts when we were talking about that earlier today?
Yeah, we were talking about the comparison between a house finch and a purple finch. And there's two ways that help you with that. Number one, if it's October or November, forget it, because the male will not be as purple as it would be in springtime. Right now, a purple finch could look just like a house finch, because the house finch is a reddish coloration on its throat and breast and also its crown. So, and the other way to find out is what their call is like. Actually, a call is the most right on the money way to identify a particular bird based on its call.
So we may do a comparison next week, just side by side, to show what the pictures you've seen, to say, here's what we think, but without the call. We can play the call for both of them, to just show how they look alike. The descriptions are the house finch's beak is curved more and a little bit more bulbous than the purple finch, and there's a slight notch in the tail. But boy, it's hard. I mean, that to the point that the closest, if you try and ask them, which is basically see what their answer is, and that would be their call. So
right, good going, yeah.
So all right, so let me get sharing my screen here. And share sound. I remember to do that. You'd think after 16 or 17 episodes, I would do that. Is it up?
I can see it.
Hang on, it's sharing the wrong one. How did I do that? Screen 2. Let's try that. There we go. That do it?
That's it.
There we go. Okay, here we go. I've got to find some dramatic music. Scott, find me some dramatic music to put with
Dun,
it.
dun, dun. How's that?
Welcome to On the Wing with Dan George.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fire.
Sound effects, Scott. Sound effects. He's got a sound effects board.
I do somewhere.
All right, so you'll find it. All right, so the first bird that Sheldon got, and I call these seasonal portraits because this reminded me of family portraits you see when people go out to pumpkin patches and things like that. And all of these are sort of thematic for fall that Sheldon got. He obviously sets up a situation that attracts birds. It looks like he's got maybe dog food or cat food or something out there that this red-bellied woodpecker, and this is a male, likes, and just creates this really cool, pretty cool picture. Here we go. Can y'all hear that?
Yes.
That's the call.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a chip, and a trill of some sort. Would you
Yeah,
call it that?
the trill is basically its song. The other are call notes. Most birds will have a call note before they sing their song. And also what this particular red-bellied has in its mouth is a peanut. Sheldon will put out peanuts. If you put out peanuts in your backyard, I will swear to you, you're going to have every woodpecker and every blue jay and anything jay, they're going to come for you. So just remember that. It's a great way to attract them. And if you do it, don't get the salted peanuts, get the raw peanuts that don't have salt.
Yeah, you need to have the raw whatever you're putting out, not the salted, because it's bad for them. They're not built to eat salt per se.
Right.
Looking at the range.
I can add something about this particular one. If you take a look at the crown and the nape is where the back of your shirt would be on your neck, right on the top of like your neck area. The crown and the nape here is red. Therefore, that is a male red-bellied woodpecker. The female wouldn't have no red on the crown, but would have red on the nape.
If you can see the picture in the video, that is a female. Has red on the back of its head, but not on the top of its head, not on the crown.
Which one are you talking about? I only see the one. I only see the one.
There's
the
a
male
picture.
red.
So I don't know what y'all can see. If on the video where the video shows on the right, there's a picture of the bird.
Okay.
Can you see my cursor?
Okay. I'm sorry. I had to move the pictures over. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
okay.
So that's a female. Looking at the
Also,
range.
one other thing about this particular red-bellied woodpecker, as you know, it's got a limited range from the central states all the way to the east. People will say, well, why is it called a red-bellied when we're all looking at that beautiful red head? Well, it can't be a red head because there is a red-headed woodpecker. We'll cover that one another time. The red is actually down by the belly. And why the ornithologist called it a red-bellied is beyond me, but that's why it's red.
It has just a sort of a reddish tint to it, and because it's called red-bellied, you'd think that'd be like its head, but it's not. And a lot of people, I'll be somewhere and they'll see this and oh, there's a red-headed woodpecker, and I'll say, yes, that's a lowercase, not proper name, red-headed woodpecker, known as a red-bellied woodpecker. The red-headed woodpecker has a complete and utter red head from the shoulders up, the wings up, if you will. How big is this bird, Dan?
This is about 9¼ inches long.
Big wingspan?
Actually, they meaning ornithologists do not care about the wingspan of these particular woodpeckers. So I really don't know what it is.
It's a pretty good wingspan. I mean, watch them fly through the woods. Their flight pattern is sort of an up and down, sort of like they're undulating over waves. So it's always a way to spot them is to watch for that motion. Let's listen to sound just a little bit more. It is a unique sound. I find myself listening to the background, listening to what I can hear back there too. Heard some cardinals and, obviously a really fast woodpecker of some sort that might actually be one of that we have on a slide. All right, here is the white-breasted nuthatch, not to be confused with the red-breasted nuthatch. Again, obviously Sheldon's putting out, a pumpkin or a gourd or something on, and this is on the back deck of his house. And he's shooting these with a 102, Scott, is that right? Or
No, this is an Explore Scientific ED80.
Yeah.
airspace triplets. So it's the FCD 100 glass that he's using on this. And if I just want to pat my own self on the back, I'm going to say these images are razor sharp. They're really
Yeah.
beautiful. And if you see the original images and you start blowing them up, you can go like 800 times looking at these images, and you can see fine structure in the feathers. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Next week, I will blow up one as a
Yeah.
detail to show what it looks like.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
obviously, how he's doing this is he's pre-focusing on his rail. He knows where the bird's going to land. And when the bird lands, he starts taking pictures and setting up his situation for success. So
You can even see the flesh around the bird's eye in Sheldon's pictures.
mhm.
Yeah.
Little tiny hairs at the base of the bill, like whiskers that you and I would have,
Yeah.
It act like Scott was 100%. The thing about Sheldon's photography is like, if you get it, he posted it. It's damn good. Excuse my French, but it's really high resolution.
I will say, if it's the truth, you're not patting yourself on the back.
Now,
So there we go. Let's listen to this bird. It's a really cool bird. I call them upside down birds for their practice of walking down a tree instead of up a tree like many birds. And they'll use their tail feathers as a balance and almost like a third leg. And it's amazing to watch them walk down a tree.
You mentioned earlier about it basically will look for food. It'll basically look for food on the bark of trees and branches. And yes, they are like acrobatic because in most cases they're actually going down. But for those that are watching right now, most of them probably have seen what's called a brown creeper. And the brown creeper is opposite because the brown creeper only goes from the bottom up. And it's amazing how nature has all of the nuthatches that go down, but the creeper goes up. Very interesting. This bird right here is 5 3/4 inches long, fairly small. And the brown creeper is 5.5 inches, but it's not nearly as neat of a color contrast with the black crown and the white cheek and the white breast. It's a pretty impressive bird, and that call that it makes, you could hear that in the woods or in your backyard, and man, you can tell that there's a wide-breasted nuthatch in the yard.
Range map is all of the United States,
Yep.
year round, up all the way into the high Canadas, up into the Northwest Territory and way up there. This bird has a huge range in North America. Right, beautiful bird. Love being out in the woods and hear them before I see them, and I know what that sound is. Here's another picture of the bird from a different angle. Again, the detail of the feather structure is just incredible in this. I'm going to blow some of these up next week. Here is the Downy Woodpecker. This would be a female, and Dan will tell us why. Go ahead, Dan. Let's talk about the bird, and then we'll listen to it.
Downy Woodpecker is 6 3/4 inches long. I mean, it's a fairly small bird, actually. They basically have white on the back. You can see that in pretty wide white bold stripe that goes on the edge of the back. That's indicative of this particular bird. The female is similar to the male, but it lacks the red hind crown. There's a red, if you were to look to where the black goes into the back of the head, that's the area where if it's red, it's a male. And they call it basically a hind crown.
A hind crown. That's a
Yep.
term I haven't heard.
That's a new
before.
one. If you want to put a hyphen in there, you can, but I've seen it written both ways. So a male and female are almost identical, almost monomorphic. However, the male will have that red hind crown.
So here we go.
And usually when you're out there looking at downy woodpeckers, you're not really wondering, I wonder if that's the male or the female, unless you really, really want to study the activities of that particular bird.
So, and you know, the action of a woodpecker, I always called it hammering, but everything I see since I've started the show calls it drumming.
It's called drumming.
We'll hear some here. Hear that drumming right there? In the previous video and audio, when I said it sounds like a bird that would be the next bird. There's that almost distinct drumming sound that has the same rhythm, the same duration. I'm pretty sure that was probably. I'm fairly certain that I know it's a woodpecker. I'm going to guess it was a downy back there, but I never heard a call. Here we go.
You
We'll
know,
listen.
for people that really study birds, and here in Colorado, we just basically have two woodpeckers here. Generally speaking, we'll have the flicker, northern flicker, which is a woodpecker, and we do have downy woodpeckers, but the red-bellied, forget it, and a lot of others just forget it. But for people like in the Midwest, like you guys, you could have the hairy woodpecker, which is a little bit larger, and they look just like this one, but the sound of the drumming is different. And people that have several species of woodpeckers in their backyard or in their back area, you will get to know what their drum sounds like. In fact, that last audio that you played, I wouldn't say for 100% certainty that drumming was actually from the same bird that we heard the call. It could be a different one.
So we can see this on the video when we see it drum. There's a cardinal.
Okay, I guess you're going to want. Yeah, obviously you can send drumming there.
So,
Yeah.
so the question becomes: is that part of their call? Because this bird is clearly hammering in the same spot, drumming in the same spot on the end of a branch. Is that a feeding activity exclusively, or is that part of their calling ritual, you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think we really know, but what woodpeckers get up in the morning, the first thing they're looking for, and the only thing they're looking for all day long is food. And they eat primarily insects, and especially if you have a tree that's pretty much a dead tree and it's been eroding over the years, that really attracts little worms and little flying insects and stuff like that. So they're looking right underneath the surface of the tree, looking for holes that would have internal activity in there with little insects.
I'm working on building a house and putting in a road, and it had a nice standing half dead tree.
Yeah.
And it killed me to have to push it over and destroy it because it had a bluebird nest in it, and it had woodpeckers on it, and it was really a tree I wanted to keep, but there was just no way around it. There's a power line, the road had to go where it was, so we had to take it down. But if you want to have woodpeckers, you got to have timber, and if you're going to have some woodpeckers, you need to have standing dead timber or branches dead, because that's where their food lives. Listen one more time. There's a blue jay back there too. And this is a female.
Correct.
No red on the back of its head. On the, what you call it?
Hind crown.
Hind crown.
Look that up in the dictionary.
I believe you. All right, so that's the beautiful downy woodpecker. And now moving along to what's identified as a male house finch. And go ahead, Dan, talk about it since we've talked about it once. Obviously, the finch has found a cool perch on top of this pumpkin. And you can see why I call it seasonal portraits. This is just like sitting around at the pumpkin patch and having fall family portraits taken. That's
Okay.
why I did this.
All house finches are 6 inches long. They have, it's a good picture showing the notched tail, a little bit of a notched tail there. There's no particular wing bars on this particular species, but in this case, you'll see that it's got a brown cap, but on the front of the head, but on a brown cap, but on the front of the head and the bib and the rump are a reddish color, and this indicates it's the male. The female looks identical to this, except there's no reddish except on the rump area.
Just a brown bird.
It's just basically a brown bird, but I will say this. I mean, in breeding plumage, usually I would say March through May, the male's going to have almost blood red, beautiful. It's a beautiful looking bird. They're very common in the United States. Interestingly enough, it's like the East and the West came together and there's an area that's missing. And for whatever reasons, God created this little guy. There are not very many house finches in a central flyway, which is, I guess, the Mississippi River up that way.
Well, according to this map, it's basically Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas are more or less left out. That's where the divide is, Eastern Texas and all of Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas. But it's just like a piece of paper was torn and moved a state apart and put back down.
Well, one reason why you'll see those states is that there's no particular records of them breeding in those states also. You know, birds do not have borders. So therefore you can look at a range map and you can never take it for being 100% accurate. And so, but in most cases you can see, all right, they're probably everywhere, but for some weird reason, they're not going to be breeding during that period, part of the country.
Which is just strange because
strange.
You know, the difference between Northwest Arkansas and Missouri, or Western Arkansas and Western Missouri, and then Eastern Oklahoma, Eastern Kansas, and Eastern Nebraska is not very much different. But, you know, that's what more and more as I get into this, I question these range maps, you know, and they're a rough guide. They're not like you said, they're not state borders. Most assuredly.
Do you have a sound? Do you have this bird's call?
Yep, here we go.
Wrong one.
Yeah, that's the start of it. That was a turtle dove, mourning dove.
Well, there's a lot of birds in that audio.
Yep. Then there was a woodpecker drumming.
Yeah.
I was listening to it. It was a longer drum than the Downy. So I'm going to rule out the Downy just based on the drum.
Well, when you see a house finch, there's going to be more than one house finch, which is
yeah, big flocks of them at the feeder.
Yeah, and we're not talking 10 or 15 or 20. You're talking about 4, 5, 6 or whatever. And usually there's the male and the female, they're together. But once you get that sound down, you will know. I mean, it's the most common backyard bird where I live right here is basically the house finch.
Bless these people who record these videos and get good audio. Without that, this would be not nearly as good of a show. So we appreciate their work. So beautiful little bird. Have grown up seeing them, here in Northwest Arkansas at bird feeders my parents would put out. Interestingly, effectively, Canada, barely around Niagara Falls, is the only place this range map shows, and up into very southwestern British Columbia, Vancouver neck of the woods. So moving on to, we normally do birds, right? And so why are flying things? And it's like, why a gray squirrel in a bird show? Well, two reasons. Squirrels do jump out of trees, and so they do glide or fly, although this is not a sugar glider, but I've seen some gray squirrels make some astounding jumps out of trees that involved effectively flying squirrels, but not flying squirrels. So this is a beautiful eastern gray squirrel. The range map, and doing some research, if you can see it, there's 5 different subspecies of eastern gray squirrels. And 2 of them are very coastal, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, just along the coast. And then 1 is the southern half of the Florida Peninsula. And then the central part of the eastern United States, the northern part, and then a finger going up into Canada. Let's listen to the gray squirrel. It makes, what was it? It was the turtle that made a grunting sound, that we were surprised that a turtle made a sound. But if you've heard a squirrel, we've all heard this probably. That's its warning bark. And there was a rooster back there. Interesting thing about the gray squirrel is when it makes that bark, almost always it's flicking its tail. So it's a telltale tail. How about that? It's a telltale tail. Ba-doom boom. So
let me add something here. Every time we have this program, this is our 18th show, we always talk about how the bird sounds, okay? So for people that want to go out and pay attention to the sounds of birds, in addition to looking to what they look like, I would say that if you cup if the camera's on me right now, if you cup your ears like this, you increase your audible sound by 50% minimum. And so every time I am out birding, I've been blessed with really good hearing anyway, but if you really want to catch a faint sound that might be a block away, you put your ear. You ever see that when deer will have the directional hearing, their ears will turn like that, right?
It also helps you find where they're located.
Absolutely.
You're not sure where it is, so you cup your ears, and then you can scan and go, "Ooh, it was loud right there," and really start zeroing in on where that sound's coming from. You can use that.
Excellent point.
Yeah. So.
Great point.
All right, so that's the lineup of feathered friends, in this case, furry friends. Just the detail in these photos. Look at the whiskers on that thing, and you can see the individual hairs in the fur. This is obviously a really well-fed Sheldon squirrel. I don't know if it considers them pets, but I'm going to say that the amount of bird food that Sheldon puts out, these squirrels enjoy his Faworski buffet every day, because that's a plump squirrel.
Did you mean to share your screen and show that, Kent?
Yeah, because I can't see it.
Oh, I had stopped sharing. We'd had it up. There we go. It's up again.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Let me add something. We're talking about some behavior of these animals. There is actually in Arizona, way south tip of California, and also in New Mexico, there is something called an acorn woodpecker. And the acorn woodpecker literally drills holes into trees, and they will put acorn, which is their source of food. They'll put thousands of acorns into these holes that they drill, because during the winter time, they will always have a source of food. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yes. And I've seen that before. So
Yeah.
it's,
You
and
have?
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful to see trees just kind of studded with these acorns into the bark, so.
I've seen blue jays take things and stick them in holes and crevices and barks of trees.
Yeah, well, they do that too.
Yeah, yeah.
There's an actual woodpecker. In fact, for those that don't have a field guide, go up to your browser and put in there acorn woodpecker. It's one of the most unique looking woodpeckers also.
So we were talking, had an idea. Dan, we were talking about, when I said I'm going to have a gray squirrel, you made the comment of, birders like to see beauty in nature. And, that's why squirrels go hand in hand. And, that's sort of why I put the dragonflies and damselflies and butterflies up, because they're beautiful things as well all around us.
Absolutely.
And we just need to recognize that beauty where we see it. And, the beauty of the pattern of acorns hammered into the bark of a tree is, just amazing. The things wildlife do to prepare for winter. Some bird, like sparrows, they take what they can get. There's no storing of food that I'm aware of, but that truly is, fed by God through the winter.
Yeah.
Yep. Wonderful.
Scott, do we
So
have
I'd
any
like
questions?
to just recognize some of the people that have commented here and read some of their comments, maybe some questions here. Let's see, we have Richard Grace had signed on first. My sister Teresa's is checking in, she's saying hello, which is nice. Wajdi Gazara says, hello, America. Martin Eastburn, bird hunter in deep East Texas. So weather. Where are the birds?
Wrong time of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Pekka Hautala from Stockholm, Sweden says, good Thursday afternoon, everybody. Sadly, it is soon the weekend, and that means no programs on TV, PC, iPhone at these times. He's suggesting that we expand our broadcast to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Great.
WTBS.
I don't know how to do that yet, Pekka, but anyways.
Now we are going to have some pictures from Pekka on our next submitted show. I think I talked about it. Yep. So we've got some pictures from Pekka we're going to share.
Okay. All right. And let's see, we got Harold Locke saying hello to Pekka, and Martin and Dan and Kent and Scott. Very nice. Thank you. People making rounds of howdy and hello. Howdy is the official greeting here on the Explorer Alliance. So didn't know if you knew that, Dan.
It's like the secret handshake.
Yeah, Dan's going, yeah, big deal. I can't hear you, Scott. Don't want to. Yeah, that's right. Howdy, Dan. Let's see. Santil Nagapan is on. I always forget where Santil is from, but Tarek is watching from the UAE, and he is he's off and on watching our programs. Very nice. Jim's Astro. Hello, everybody. And we were talking about the sharpness of the images here and the depth of field.
That makes focusing challenging, because a lot of times, the cameras you use will go for a depth of field balance with shutter speed and have a pretty deep depth of field. But at the distances he's working, the depth of field is thin.
2-3 inches, something like that.
Maybe that much, less than that, an inch or two.
Yeah.
And it focus becomes a very critical thing. And if any of us have ever tried to focus, I mean, this has a very fine focus knob, a 10-to-1 focus knob on the camera, but the birds don't sit still for you. It's like trying to take a picture of a newborn, or a little toddler that doesn't want to hold still. You've got to shoot a lot of pictures to come up with the one picture that you can use.
I'd like to make a comment here that there's a lot of people that might want to take up bird watching as a hobby. All right. So obviously it's pretty overwhelming if you go in the backyard without a pair of binoculars and without a field guide. It's like, that's all, folks. There's nothing. It's not going to help you. Take a look at this.
Oh, that's the Nat Geo one, right?
And that's the one you recommend, correct?
This is considered to be the Bible to 90% of bird watchers in North America. It has over 1,000 birds of North America.
Wow.
See, that just kills me because I grew up on Peterson's.
And this is way beyond that. And Peterson was great. The interesting thing about all the birds that are in here, not one is a photograph. 100% of these birds are drawn by professional artists that capture every detail. For example, if you took a look today of a scarlet tanager, and you know how beautiful the scarlet tanager is, right? Is like a fantastic color of red, right? But right today, if you saw a male scout, first of all, you'd have to go to South Texas or maybe Mexico to see a scarlet tanager male today, but it would probably be a yellowish green. There's no red at all. But wait until March and April when they've molted with their new feathering, the males will come to unbelievable color. So then here it'll show you drawings of what they look like in autumn and what they look like in summertime when they're fully feathered out.
I'll open a page and just show us what you're talking about. Let's see the inside page.
I'll get
Scott, we're not going to do any copyright violations, get blocked for showing the page.
No, we're advertising.
No, I don't think so. We're trying to sell some National Geographic stuff. We're an official licensee, not for the books, but.
All right,
yeah,
I got it here.
We're an official. We do license National Geographic binoculars and telescopes.
That's right.
Now, down here on the bottom of the page, you'll see this bird right here is the scarlet tanager male that's red with black wings, and that's the female. And this will show you what they look like in autumn. But this is what people get turned on about bird watching.
Right,
when you can
those
have
colors.
When they're like that.
So what's the bird above that, Dan? Summer tanager?
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing about this is, I'm just letting you know that when you go out birding, one thing I do not do when I go out birding is to take a camera. It's too big of a sport or hobby for you to think that you're going to be taking photographs like Sheldon Faworski, which is impossible, first of all, okay? So just grab the joy of just looking at birds without binoculars, but then with a pair of maybe 7 or 8 power binoculars. That's all you need, plus a field guide, and you're good to go.
And always good to go with a friend because you can both look at the bird and see different things, I would think.
Absolutely.
You're talking out aloud to each other about where it is and what it is and noticing different field marks, which then allow you to get into the field guide and do a better job of adding to your life list.
I'll add one other thing. This is not advertising. I'm just letting you know, okay? There on my iPhone here, I have a program called iBird. Available on, I think, both Apple and also I think on other platforms as well. Anyway, I think it's like $8 or $9 one time. It has calls for birds that have calls that's probably saved by a Cornell, okay? And you literally could have the sound of all 8 woodpeckers in North America just on your phone. Yeah. It's really amazing.
So I have Merlin Bird ID and Picture Bird are the 2 that I have. Yours is what's it called? iBird?
It's called small I, the capital B, IRD, iBird. I have the iBird Pro, but just to let folks know that when I started birding 30 years ago, I was lucky enough to get a cassette tape that had maybe 20 birds with their sounds. Now I got over 1,000. It's just amazing.
What'd you do? Start when you were about 20?
Easy boy. That's a compliment. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Any other comments here? Martin Eastburn is saying when he lived in Central California working in Simi Valley, we had a tall coastal redwood across the road from our home. Woodpeckers poked holes in a massive array, and the jays would put acorns in the holes to pickle the worm inside. The peckers would get them next year, and the acorns to the jays. It was over 100 years, and the locals loved the tree and birds.
I've never
Very
seen
cool.
a redwood. I've got to get to Northern California and see the redwoods.
Oh yeah, you got to
Yeah.
go see the sequoias. You got to see the redwoods. It's really amazing.
I've seen plenty of redwood, but it's been mostly on back decks, which is not good for the redwoods necessarily.
Right. Well, I want to thank the audience for chiming in and watching us today. We'll be back next week with another episode of On the Wing. Dan George will soon be taking a holiday break from the show, and that's fine. And we will update you on future episodes of On the Wing. But we will be back next week. And until that time, people.
One other thing, Scott.
Oh, okay.
Reader submissions. Or viewer submissions. Send us your pictures.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't take the newspaper out of a guy, right?
Right.
After 40 years in that business, it's hard not to say readers when you mean viewers. But yeah, send them to Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com. And I'll use them on future shows.
Great. Okay. All right. Okay. So, Harold Locke is saying thanks, Dan, Kent, and Scott, for another great bird show. So thanks very much, man. All right. And we will see you tomorrow for Focus on Astrophotography with Tyler Bowman. And he's got a special guest that will be coming onto the program as well. And we will see you. We'll see you tomorrow. Also, next week we have our 70th Global Star Party. So I'm already starting to promote that. If there's anything special that you'd like to see on Global Star Party, certainly get in touch with me, and we'll start to make your viewer requests known as we do more of those events. So,
other thing is, First Light Chronicles has been focusing on light pollution. And if you missed the First Light Chronicle yesterday, go track it down on our Facebook page or YouTube channel and watch it. It was jam-packed with some great data, some really cool slides that we're going to make available to everybody. Next week's show is going to be interesting. We're going to be talking about how light pollution affects night pollinators. Turns out that potentially half or more of the pollination, at least in apple orchards, are done by moths and not bees. And we're going to be talking to an entomologist who has studied that. We're going to start at 5 o'clock next Wednesday, not the traditional 4 o'clock Central Time. It'll be 5 o'clock Central Time. So join us there. It'll prove to be interesting too.
Right. Okay. We'll see you soon.
Hi guys, Tyler with Explore Scientific. This week on Focus on Astrophotography, we have a very special guest up in the northern region, our very own Sean Nielsen. He's going to talk about setting up for success. What happens if you dive straight in with a C8, just a huge magnification telescope, but you're overwhelmed, you don't know what to do. Don't worry, we're going to be here to help you and pull you back in and get you the answers that you need to get. Don't forget, Focus on Astrophotography, every Friday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We hope to see you guys there.
Alpen Wings 8x42 binoculars are designed with versatility in mind. The BAK4 fully multi-coated optics, combined with the lightweight and ergonomic open hinge body design, make these waterproof binoculars the perfect tool for any situation or weather. Armored and purged, these binoculars are tough enough to last against any minor bumps and dings and will never suffer from internal fogging. With the long eye relief and twist-up eye cups, the Alpen Wings 8x42 binoculars are the perfect tool for any adventure.